Hi, so this is going to be Valentine's card number 1 of today's video, and I'm going to begin by taking a number 4 round brush and mixing up some of my brown, which is burnt sienna. Just got a bit on my paper there, that's not a good start. So I want to make quite a dark brown, so I'm going to add some of my ultramarine blue. And let's see what we've got there. Yes, so that gives us a nice dark brown. And I'm going to begin this painting by taking my thin brush and drawing the start of a tree. So a couple of branches kind of coming off in a few different directions there. Just thicken up the trunk at the bottom. And then I can touch the paint to add some darker sections. Maybe bring another one across, flick another. That looks good. So we've got a few branches, that's the basis of the tree. And now on my palette, I'm going to go into my Cadmium Red. So this is a really nice warm red paint colour. So I'm going to mix up a little of that. And rather than our tree being made up of lots of little leaves, this tree is going to be made up of hearts. So I'm just going to begin by creating a few love hearts in the Cadmium Red. So you can do little variations in size and direction. So I might have a larger one here. Using the tip of my brush to make sure that I get some good shapes. So you don't need to put too much pressure on your brush because these are quite small shapes. If you press down, then you're going to get a big mark, big brush stroke. I'm just trying to make them slightly smaller the further up I go. So a couple of really small ones at the top, I think. Let's turn my page around a little. Okay, so those are the Cadmium Red hearts. Now I'm going to have a go doing exactly the same thing but a slightly different red. So let's actually go for a pink. Let's use the Permanent Rose this time with some water so that it's not too dark. Actually, I'm going to add a bit more water to make it a little bit paler. So just a little bit paler. There we go. Okay, so starting at the bottom with some slightly larger hearts. Okay, and then I'm going to take some Quinacridone Gold, which is a really pretty colour. Add in some water. So I'm adding a little bit of the pink into my Quinacridone Gold just to give another tone. It's much more orange now, and you can see it a little bit more clearly. Turn my tree around again just to make it easier for me. And finally, just going back into the brown that we'd mixed, and just joining up some of those and just remove that with a stiff brush, that brown splat that I had at the start. So that's gone now, folks. Okay, and there we have our first Valentine's card. Let's move on to number 2. Okay, so this is video 2. So the second card that I'm going to create for Valentine's Day, and for this one you're going to need some oil pastels to create this effect. So I'm going to take out the white oil pastel, and I already have some colours mixed up on my palette. I've got sap green, permanent magenta and some cerulean blue in the palette, and I'm going to take my pastel and I'm going to create some little hearts, heart shapes over my watercolour paper. I want to try and vary the sizes and the shapes, but I'm going to cover the whole piece in lots of little hearts. Maybe a couple of little ones just in there. Okay, oh, there's a space here, just fill that out. So press on quite hard with that wax oil pastel. You could use a white wax crayon, but again press on nice and hard because it's a resist for the paint. So yes, so I've got my oil pastel down. I don't know if you can see from an angle where I've done that, but I'll show you anyway. Now what I want to do is take a wet brush and start with my sap green and just pop some sap green down here and there. A little bit of water. Okay, and then clean my brush into my magenta. I want that to sort of blend in a little bit here and there. So you can do a scumbling technique, so that's using the side of your brush. And where it touches the green paint, if it's still slightly wet, it will blend together nicely. And then into my cerulean blue, and it is resisting that oil pastel really nicely. And some of that green mixing with the cerulean blue as well. So I want to make sure I get the edges of the hearts that I've painted on, that I've drawn on. So I'm going to go round and pull the colour to the edge of the painting where I haven't quite reached the edges. So I'm going to go right to the edges to make sure I don't miss out any of these hearts that I've drawn in. And you know, have a go at different patterns. Maybe you don't want to do hearts, maybe you want to do roses or something instead, something different. That would be really nice, flowers. But if I show you now, you should be able to see the hearts that I drew. They're really pretty, and obviously the colours are working together, which is fab. So let's have a go at the next one. Okay, so this is the third video of creating a Valentine's card in this session today, and I'm just going to grab a pencil, and the first thing I want to do is to draw a heart just really lightly as a guide. So I always find it easiest to draw half of the heart in, make sure that the middle is in line with the bottom point, and then I turn the image upside down and I try and mirror what I've just done. If you can get the same angle at the bottom, and bring it out, and then look if, you know, roughly what that distance is there should be the same on this side, and that way you should have roughly a nice even heart without too much trouble. Alternatively, you can make yourself a stencil and trace that. So I have a rough heart shape now, and I cleaned my palette. We'll get some colours going. So I really enjoyed using the magenta in the last card, so I'm going to get some magenta. I also want some of my, this is sap green, so I want some sap green there in the corner. And then I'm going to do very pale ultramarine blue just here. So I'm going to add a bit more water to that to really thin it out. So I've got some nice colours. I've got a pale blue, I've got the magenta, and then I've got the sap green. Okay, so now I'm going to go around and with my small number 2 brush, I'm going to paint some flowers around the outside of this heart. So you'll start by doing a rose, which are sort of C shapes. You go around the shape and overlap little C shapes like that, and then bring in some water and just sort of fill in those gaps with a little bit of water. Okay, so to show you again, if I do one at the top, start off with like a semicircle, and then press your brush as you do it, go around, and you can create these overlapping petals. Some of them will be thin, some of them will be open, and so it just gives you a very simple way of creating what looks like a rose. Okay, but just don't go inside the heart, preserve the shape of the heart. So using that magenta colour, I'm also going to do some little berry-like shapes, so sort of like little raspberries or something like that. That come on little branches, so they look a bit like fruit, but they're little flowers. So sort of dot them around, so leaving little gaps in between the dots. Okay. And then I'm going to switch colour to the blue and do some other shapes of flowers. So let's do some like with big open rounded petals. And we can paint the centre as well. So if I just pop in a few of those shapes, so you can do small ones, big ones, so vary up the shapes, the sizes. So there might be a small one next to it, So small ones, you can do 5 little circles next to each other and then just join them up. Let's do one up here. So 5 little circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all joined up in the centre like that. And then with the sap green, I think I must have a little bit of pink on my palette there, so I'm going to do a clean area for my sap green. It was getting a little bit muddy, that's better. So there's my sap green. If I just take a little bit of that off my brush. And I want to do some leaf shapes, so a bit like a fern first of all. Remembering again, don't go inside the heart. So just dragging that green out from that centre line that you draw. It becomes sort of like a fern.